indulgent, unenjoyable slog. Now, such a statement might make me look like a prejudiced hater, but truly, if this film was good, I would praise it. One of my favourite films ever made is the Disney live-action Cinderella, one of the most wholesome, uplifting, inspiring, and heartfelt films ever made, and which stands as the gold standard for live-action fairy tale films and contrasts so devastatingly to the live-action Snow White and exposes how hollow and pathetic it really is, by demonstrating just how much Disney has lost their way. The worst parts of Snow White are its plot, the hollow payoffs where everything just goes Snow White's way without her actually earning any achievement. The look of the film feels completely fake. The dwarves are nightmare fuel and very annoying and never funny. There's a hilariously and astronomically bad, cringe musical number by Gal Gadot. I'm not kidding, it's almost as cringe as the musical number by the evil queen in the Disney Descendants movie series.
Don't you wanna be evil like me? Don't you wanna be mean?
But the issue is that musical number was actually meant to be cringe. And please don't judge me for knowing about the Descendants movie series. I have kids, okay? They've watched it. I've seen it by proxy, okay? The clip
White is now problematic, and it's like, alright, look, if a movie is 75 plus years old, let's just assume there's a few problems and go about our day. We don't need a think piece every time. And of course I read the article and I said, look, the movie is problematic because he kisses her and she's sleeping. There's no consent. And I was like, alright, but it was a quick kiss and it saved her life. It's not like he's making out with her while jacking off. And if you pass out and you get kissed by a prince, it's not exactly the worst case scenario, you know? I'm not saying it's okay, but that's, if you're unconscious, that is most likely not who's gonna kiss you. Maybe Prince Andrew, but normally.
Absolutely hilarious! Today we're going to check out comic. Anything and face the fans' wrath. Snow White still runs off with the guy who smooches her corpse. She wasn't dead. The castle subjects swirl around the grounds. Happy peasants, I scroll in the dark. That old school tone felt wrong. Guiltily, I crossed it out and wrote, happy workers.
We do want to build a mass organization, political organization of the working class that vies for state power.
Just to give you an idea of the kind of lunatic which is writing this crap. Workers of the world, you've only got to lose your chains. Peasants. I find it weird that Amy here has such an affront to the word peasant when she so clearly is one. You're not an aristocrat, are you, Amy? You're not nobility. You're basic peasant like the rest of us. Just because you have a soy latte in the morning doesn't mean you've got class. Alright, fairest of them all now means both beauty and just. If it does still mean beauty, I am going to laugh. Zegler has all the qualities of a great star. Sings with her jaw jutting out like she's daring someone to throw a punch. I have a feeling that's just bad singing form. Like gooning as the voice comes out. Probably not deliberate. She took heat for suggesting Snow White was a bit of a simp, as she should be. She is meant to be his wife, to a prince. You're only going to get one chance at that, love. You better not blow it. Well, not until the time comes anyway. But Zegler doesn't spend this iteration of whistle while you work tidying up with birds, squirrels and bunnies. She makes the men scrub their own damn floors. Like they deserve. She goes along, breaks into their house, and wants to stay as a guest without paying rent. It's like, this is too dirty for me. Clean it up, you scum. You peasant scum.
My vet told me chemical flea treatments were the only option. Here's what they didn't tell me about natural alternatives. You know,
the musical score, including classics like Hi Ho and Someday My Prince Will Come, set the gold standard for integrating music into animated films. Its box office success, becoming the highest grossing film of all time, confirmed Disney as a force in Hollywood and allowed the studio to expand into what would become the Disney Empire, from which this spoiled twerp Zegler is now benefiting. Most importantly, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs paved the way for every animated feature film that followed, proving that cartoons weren't just for children, they were an art form that could captivate the world. But poor old Walt Disney would be spinning in his grave to see a star on the payroll of the company that he created on a reported fee of $2 million, desecrating the memory of his greatest movie. The live-action Snow White remake has been plagued by controversy since day one. Initially scheduled for release in early 2024, it's been pushed back and back and back, While Disney blamed post-production needs and a studio fire, it's quite clear that a negative fan reaction at test screenings and last-minute reshoots ordered by panicking producers caused the delays. They've reportedly had to crowbar in a love story so hated by Zegler after test audiences requested one, and some of the acting is apparently so dire, some performances have been replaced by CGI computer technology. More bad headlines came as a result of the film's casting choices, particularly the 7 dwarves. Rather than employing actors with dwarfism, which would be the obvious thing to do, Disney opted for a diverse group of actors of various backgrounds and heights. So some of the dwarves are quite tall. And this entire policy, ironically, denies people with dwarfism who are actors a massive acting opportunity, all in the name of political correctness. Make it make sense. Normally Disney movies are designed to bring people together, but again Zegler, the main star of the film, has attacked right-leaning voters, half of her audience, before a grovelling apology. And she's been at odds with her co-star Gal Gadot in her very vocal support for Palestine in the Gaza conflict. Of course, everyone is entitled to their view, but as the face of a family movie, to leverage your privileged position for political gain and for left-wing activism is deeply wrong. Meanwhile, Disney bosses, mindful of the controversy around the movie, have cancelled the planned Hollywood premiere, instead showing
There
the
is
film
no
at a
character
small
development
venue
here.
in
I
Spain.
felt nothing. I mean, I felt literally nothing for a single character in this film. This thing was written to move audiences from point A to B to C to D. That was it. There was nothing. I mean, there was no time for development. They're in a suburb. And we don't have any municipalities here that have particularly
So we're going to talk about Disney's Snow White. So Mark will do a review.
Yes.
I've got a very interesting email from someone who was involved in the production.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll play you, to get us in the mood,
Yes.
we'll play you a clip from Disney's Snow White, then we'll talk about Will from Gloucester, and then Mark can reply to it.
Okay,
and
no. Oh, yeah, fine. Good.
review
All right,
the
good.
film.
Okay.
So one of the films that is out this week is Disney's Snow White. Here's a clip.
To honor the day I was born, my father named me Snow White.
Little girl at a lonely well,
This is his kingdom.
with the same little tale to tell.
He taught me to be fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Is that a girl I'll ever know again?
But she changed everything. Please, show mercy.
Find his home and burn it to the ground. You were saying?
Cut that out, cut that out.
You're not singing while I'm here. Okay.
What's the curtains?
With the miners, as they were known internally, was widely, deliberately misinterpreted as bowing to criticism, a reactionary change in approach, and the film became viewed as a production in crisis.
Actress or something in 2020.
I think it's fair to say
Mandy
that
Moore, who
no
did the
one on the right
choreography
side of
for
America
La La
can
Land, did the
stand
musical
the star of
sequences.
this movie. And yet, Christian, you've seen the movie, and it appears that the filmmakers cobbled together enough salvageable material to make the movie itself quite nice.
Yeah, it's not a train wreck. I was expecting just that. And listen, it's not a great film. It's got its flaws. And this third act is completely rewritten to be more empowering. Yeah, I think you know the drill. But, listen, one of the reasons why Rachel Zegler sticks around is she's got a beautiful voice and she has some talent. So I think that certainly helps her because she's a PR nightmare. I don't know how anyone would hire her. But, again, there is some talent there. It is a familiar story. I think kids will enjoy it. There are a couple of little scary moments, but nothing that much. But given all the behind-the-scenes mayhem, I expected a Frankenstein's monster where scenes would be stitched together. It's not quite that way. So, again, not a great film, but I think a lot of these live-action updates are really hard to watch.
Not have been, but
As a doctor who is a nutrition, there's only
Snow
one
White
thing
leads an
I
insurrection,
recommend,
basically.
and that is
For all the libs talking about how they hate insurrection,
And by so many-
they have replaced the way that the Queen dies in the original movie with a kind of an insurrection. So Snow White shows up. She says, "I'm back, and I'm here to take my rightful role as the ruler of this kingdom." And the evil queen says, "Okay,
here's a dagger, stab me if you want to take my throne. And Snow White says, well, I can't do it. So then the queen says, all right, guards, kill her. And just as the guard's about to kill her, Snow White knows the guard's name and tells him his name and asks him how his wife and kids are doing. And she remembers the other guard's name and she knows everyone's name. In other words, Snow White escapes certain death from the queen's guard because she's a good retail politician. In other words, even though it is a kingdom and she's a princess, the political resolution of the movie is that democracy triumphs over monarchy.
We have over 600 vendors worldwide. There's a lot on our plate. Way too many emails. But with Gemini and Gmail, we can instantly summarize and compare vendors.
Snow White is finally here. And
that is not present.
Not knowing that it was a musical. I know. I should really pay more attention. As soon as that first song started, I looked at my date and said, what have we done? And she responded, sir, if you talk to me again, I'm calling security.
It's time.
First, let's address the elephant in the room. Snow White. Does she resemble the person from the original story? Skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. Snow White is meant to look delicate, with a spirit so gentle that all creatures, great and small, are drawn to her. But instead, we've got Rachel Zegler, which leads to a slight problem with her name. But don't worry, they fixed that. Now she's named Snow White to honour the night she was born, which was in a snowstorm. If we ran with the weather-based naming system in Australia, my brother's name would be Red Hot Scorcher, also knowing that the trees are breathing.
Weird.
And I'm sure that the dwarves were not originally in this film, and the bandits had a much larger story, once upon a time. But like the final budget of this movie, we will never know the truth. Rachel Zegler. She was not a good choice for this role. And after her early publicity tour, I'm pretty sure Disney would agree.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
And it's not because she doesn't fit the whole white as driven snow. It's Gal Gadot's the evil stepmother.
You dare to disobey me.
This woman, no matter how easy on the eyes she is, cannot act. Now, I'm not saying she's a bad actor. I'm saying she can't even stand still convincingly on screen. She is horrendous.
Magic mirror on the wall. The fairest one of all.
There is a musical number where she is meant to be going from cute to sexy to scary back to cute. The whole time you are hoping that she will find an emotion she can actually grab onto. But no, there isn't one. There isn't one emotion she can convey with any conviction.
To let every bone in my body become the evil queen.
And when she magically transforms into the old hag, she still just sounds exactly like Gal Gadot.
Did I frighten you? I enjoyed it so much that I even took it home and I changed my voice and I used my body as a way to express her even more.
Her role really needed someone that could be a scene stealer, and unless Gal Gadot was half naked,
is complete nonsense. And then there's Rachel Zegler herself. Because she's such a hateful, spoiled brat in real life,
Median
her attempt to
completely
pretend to be a
destroying the
kind
new woke Snow White from Disney. Let's bring back some common sense into Hollywood. Let's go.
Snow White. Oh my god, hi, huntsman. Still married? Yes. Listen, the queen wants me to kill you because you're prettier than her. You need to run away as fast as you can.
You think I'm pretty?
No way.
Okay, before I start living with 7 men, I'll need to know everybody's star sign. Grumpy, you start.
I'm a Libra.
Okay. I hope you have a mining accident.
A beautiful apple for a beautiful girl. Is it processed? It's an apple. I don't eat processed foods. I just plucked it from a tree.
Does it hurt the tree?
It's probably a good idea not to eat a poisoned apple, right? So even if it was all about the process, I'm not eating that apple because I have high standards. You didn't put any poison in it, did you?
Did somebody kiss me?
Oh my god, Snow White, we thought you were dead, and this man thought you were really pretty and tried to help you.
It's called a nap. I'm sleep deprived. Who the f*** even are you?
Prince Florian.
And how old are you?
31.
Is this karma for paying the mirror to tell my mom I'm prettier than her? Is it?
What mirror?
I'm not talking to you, old person.
It's Florian.
It's pedophilia.
At US Bank, we know how good it feels to reach your milestones. But we also
also know really good.
Snow White film.
Our world generation is doomed.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who's the prince? One of
Studio panicked, refilmed
Personally,
scenes with the dwarves.
I think that
and now
she's
you
got
have
a very
two
big
different
leftist
versions
mouth,
of this
and that
film
sometimes she just
colliding
tends to.
head on. Or
I
this
think,
film, as it stands,
casting her
dwarves
Snow White
and
is a
bandits
big
both
mistake.
being in here was always how it was planned to be. But they released this picture to fabricate internet outrage because internet's going to do what internet does, and no press is bad press. I don't know. I'll probably never know. But you can't help but see that Snow White and the Seven Dwarves and Snow White and the Seven Bandits are two different feeling films that are almost in competition on screen. I mean, the bandits don't have any real character. They're just there. I feel like that's not supposed to be the case because one bandit references another bandit. Why does this movie feel like it's two separate films clashing?
Well,
In the end, for the whole
only
experience, this
photographers
movie I'm
and
not
house
going to remember
crew
in T-minus
are
1 day.
permitted to
Yeah,
attend.
just watch
When
the original.
studios
I guess.
don't let journalists in, you know there's a problem. It gets worse. Zegler has
Populations,
spoken
quote, unquote,
negatively on more than
when
one
you take
occasion
the
about,
aggregate
and I quote, white men in the
one
movie industry.
scene,
I'm
and then
so
she goes back to
confused.
Sweet
I thought
Snow
invoking
White.
skin
Those
color was a
wishes
bad thing.
stick out like a sore thumb, and don't even try to tell me that there are 7 bandits that all of a sudden have 3 lines of dialogue in the
I
final
echo
version
Ethel
of the
King's
film.
statement more than anything.
Together with a
Made
bunch of
Trump
garbage.
supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. Then she discusses the deep, deep sickness in this country. There is no help, no counsel in any of them. And she also attacked Twitter and Elon and finished it all with "fuck Donald Trump." So it's one of the reasons why she's not like the ideal choice for the lead role in Sweet Snow White, and why.
Thank you so much for being here, and to see this is really emotional for me, so I'm going to try to not do that. I love her,
she's
and
emotional
her
now.
superpower is her heart. It's nothing supernatural. It's something that all of us have. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy Snow White. Thank you, guys.
I'm sorry. That was acting. That's what that was.
There was a hope just off screen they were going to yank her off if she
Because
kind
remember
of
that time that we
did a
sang
free
about promising each other that we would wish
I wouldn't
each
even
other
recognize
with
her on the
a
street,
kiss
so I find it
if
hard to
ever
believe
the time
these
or
kids are
opportunity came for
expresses
such a thing
some
to
bemusement.
happen. So anyways, they sing this song. Of course, the evil queen turns herself into an old woman and tricks Snow White into biting into a poison apple. Snow White goes into the coma. She's laying there. The prince revolutionary ends up getting captured by the queen and imprisoned, but he escapes in just enough time to make it to Snow White to give her this now consensual kiss and wake her up from her coma. And of course we're wondering, how does this movie end? How does Snow White actually end up overthrowing the evil queen? Well, Snow White and her team of revolutionary bandits go right back up to the castle with all the people around, and the queen says, "Kill her! She is wanting to overthrow me. She is the fairest of them all. I'm jelly. We gotta get rid of her." And Snow White goes, "Wait!" And the way that she overthrows the queen is when the soldiers are about to kill her, she starts remembering their names. And she's like, "Yo, I remember you. Didn't you used to be a farmer before Evil Queen made you soldier? And you used to have a cherry farm. And you made cherries with your wife, and you..."
Hearted person requires more suspension of disbelief than telling myself that the moon is made of cheese. She does pull off entitled, stuck-up and selfish perfectly fine, although I don't think she deserves much credit there because she didn't really need to act those parts at all.
I'm a narcissist.
But seriously, this is the woman who wished for half of America to never know peace because they supported the Orange Man. That's an extreme level of spiteful cruelty right there. Far beyond someone dying, she wants the people she dislikes to go on in misery and torment to never know peace. That's what that means. And yes, she apologised for that statement, but forgive me if I don't think it was genuine, especially in light of her pattern of behaviour. She has a history of acting like a spiteful, hateful cow, from stoking further hate against Gina Carano when the cancel mob went after Carano for not putting pronouns in her bio when the hate mob demanded that she bend the knee. Zegler,
she did do very good as Lucy Gray, and she did stay true to Lucy Gray's character in the film, and she is a great singer. I don't deny any of that. I just don't like her as a person. I mean, of course, love her with the love of Christ, always. But I mean, it's just like, I'll stop there. If they could have cast someone else for the role, I would have been happy with that, but she did good at it. Maybe they could have cast Brett Cooper as the role. Anyways, Now stop being controversial.
Gabapentin is bringing you closer to amputation. These are three symptoms that are signaling
also,
that...
as that email
Oh,
pointed
that's
out,
the other
all the
choice. I
criticism
agree.
has been, go woke, go broke. But the fact is, it's a film with colourblind casting, with a message which is very kind of the people against the power structures. It's a female empowerment narrative, and of course the story that we're always told is that, well, Mark, you just like films because you agree with their politics, and all the politics of this are politics that I'm sort of broadly on board with. Therefore, it does disappoint me to say that I think it's quite bad, and I'll what it's trying to do. It doesn't work. It doesn't work on screen, and it raises again the issue of why are we doing this?
Once upon a time, in a kingdom where fairy tales were deemed too outdated to endure, a classic story has been rewritten, whether anyone wanted it to be or not. This holiday season, meet Snow Woke, a perfect heroine for a modern world. She's brilliant, unstoppable, and doesn't need anyone to save her. But every perfect protagonist needs an imperfect villain. Enter the extremely ugly evil queen, a woman so dazzlingly beautiful, so perfectly poised, so annoyingly photogenic that she's been branded the greatest threat to Snow Woke's kingdom. Why? Because she refuses to stop being the fairest of them all. And she has the audacity to think that's okay. Armed with a magic mirror and a closet full of ethically sourced couture, the queen will stop at nothing to preserve her title as fairest of them all. But Snow Woke isn't having it. She's too busy dismantling outdated hierarchies and leading her team of allies toward a brighter, fairer future. He's here to listen, learn, and politely step aside with
much for the great and kind support. 25% of the 4 million, I think, really is a major sign. They already took a deep pause on the Hercules remake, the Sword in the Stone remake, along with a comeback for Alice in Wonderland. Those top three, they're trying...
Go to Gaza, bro. Show us that you care, man. That'd be, I agree, if you actually went to Gaza, that would be impressive. But he can't, because he can't do it. It's a little dangerous.
First of all, we already talked about how the onslaught on Gaza is completely different than any other war that we've seen in our modern times, right? Afghanistan, Iraq, all these wars. Ukraine, we have seen much different. I mean, Ukraine had about 500 to 1,000 casualties in 1 year. We're talking about over 200,000 casualties in 1 year in Gaza. A lot of that being children, and that's not the kids who had to get amputated without anesthesia. That's not the people who are now with permanent disabilities, etc., 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 right? All of the above. But going beyond that, it's also this idea where it's like, if you don't go to Gaza, then you don't care about Gaza. When that's categorically false. As you guys know, Ethan Klein has been crashing out repetitively.
Let's be clear, this isn't just any film they're remaking. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the first full-length animated feature ever made, created by Walt Disney himself. In fact, before that, animation was just a series of short, amusing little skits. Think Oswald the Rabbit
Snow White animation,
and
saying
the Silly Symphonies as an
She's
example.
expressed that she's
And of
entitled
course,
to
later,
more money
Mickey
for
Mouse,
wearing a
but
princess
Walt
dress on top
had a
of the
bigger
bucket
vision.
loads of money she's
So he
already
saw a
getting,
silent
oblivious
film
to the reality
adaptation
that a
of
lot
the
of people
classic
wear far
Club
more
and
uncomfortable things for far less than what she is getting paid.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She also compares herself to a work of art, specifically the Winged Victory statue, and she said it in this weird, self-indulgent non-apology.
To everyone who hates when I win, the Winged Victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
But what I think demonstrates who Rachel Zegler is best is this little video here with the text "Respect women today and every day," while at the same time giving everyone the finger. What an astounding display of entitlement where she demands respect based on nothing but the fact that she is a woman while explicitly disrespecting everyone else. The hypocrisy, arrogance, and narcissism is just astounding.
I'm a narcissist.
She gets to treat you like garbage while demanding special treatment for herself. It's utterly insufferable.
Would
So
take
yes,
the
anything with
cherries
Rachel Zegler
and
in
share
it is
them with
hard.
everybody in the town, because again, we used to live in a communist utopia. And the guy's like, word. I suddenly remembered that I did used to farm cherries and share them with everybody in town. And the soldiers lay down their arms and say that they will no longer fight for the evil queen. And then the evil queen is overthrown, not because anybody commits a violent act against her, but she actually goes to her mirror again to like go through this tussle of who's the fairest of them all. And the mirror's like, yo, I told you about 10 times now, the fairest of them all is Snow White, and she's still the fairest of them all, because while you may be beautiful, Gal Gadot, you know, Rachel Zegler is beautiful in her heart. So Gal Gadot smashes the mirror, and the mirror kills her.
Yours was on the
Having a bunch of white executives having to prove your identity to them. Now, I don't care what they say,
Uncle Walt, as he was
like
sometimes
on
called,
camera
unveiled his
or to
plans
magazines
for this new
behind.
amusement park that he was going to call Disneyland.
Honest woman. Okay, let's watch this classic clip.
Our latest and greatest dream. That's it, right here. Disneyland.
To a little kid eating from a TV dinner, it seemed like heaven on earth. And I remember going to Disneyland. I remember driving up the freeway and seeing the Matterhorn jutting above all the other buildings. And I made a solemn vow as a child. And I said, when I become an adult, I'm going to go to Disneyland every single day. Well, I've been an adult for a while and I've not kept that vow. But hey, my love for Disney animation stuck with me. So much so that I became a cartoonist myself, eventually producing my own animated shorts with my characters Ben Born Again and Yellow Dog. Which brings me to Disney's latest attempt to remake a classic. And let's just say that, well, they've lost it.
Enough champagne to fill the Nile.
Now that clip, yes, it's tiny, but it's a very accurate representation of Gal Gadot's acting ability. Now look, I'm not gonna make fun of her as a person because I'm sure Gal Gadot is, an okay individual, but a talentless woman. Okay, let's watch this 5-second clip.
Kalal, no! I need you to give me the stone. Enough champagne to fill the Nile.
Now that clip, yes, it's tiny, but it's a very accurate in everything she does. She doesn't act like herself, but the way she delivers life, evil queen in Snow White. Like Disney had...
I now behold.
In the original story, the mirror represents the source of truth, and the Queen's insecurities provoke her to kids that the evil witch is still better than all the hard
The original movie. That is not present in the Grimm fairy tale. That is a radical,
This
liberal
past video
rewriting
we
of the
talked
story.
about part 1, which is
As long as you're good at shaking hands and kissing babies,
the second
you'll
part of this
be able to
covering
lead
up
an
the
insurrection
crash out
against the
is
Queen.
going to
I'm not
be
defending
his
the Queen;
takes
she's
on
an evil
Israel
queen.
and what he
But-
said about
but they're-
Palestine, which has been going downhill, and it's starting this kind of snowball effect where it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes downhill. So we'll be talking about that. There's more than likely going to be a part 3 and 4 of this crash out coverage too, so make sure you like, subscribe, comment for more videos like this.
When Snow Woke explains why his role is unnecessary.
at all.
Will Snow Woke and her allies overcome the Queen's relentless selfies and sorcery? Or will the story end with a stirring lecture instead of a happily ever after? Snow Woke and the extremely ugly...
Let's see how good of a singer she actually is.
Even this, even now, even as the walls come.
Is exactly what's wrong with Hollywood today.
I'm Snow White, and I'm not some weak little princess. I'm a boss babe, and I'm here to overthrow...
The evil queen?
The patriarchy, actually.
But Queen Grimhilda is a wicked witch.
Okay, that's offensive. Okay, those are rumors spread by insecure, toxic little men.
She hired a
Think heavy spoilers fell off, but one click away. Let me explain. For the last couple of years of an argument, this helped to add legitimacy. It's going to seem like a lot, and people are going to be like, What's going on? What's happening? I think what the biggest downfall overall is that they weren't really giving new characters a chance or even crediting them, and instead they were just being lazy. And...
Hi, I'm Adam, and I made an appointment with Lifeline Screening to get my arteries examined